Welcome, everybody. We're at the top of the hour now, and we have a lot of information we're going to go through today, so let's get started. My name is Jeffrey Roth. I am the Vice President of Marketing here at EdCast. We are happy to sponsor this webinar today, and happy you can make it. The title is Micro to Massive, How Enterprises Are Using Microlearning and MOOCs to Revolutionize Corporate Training. It's a very exciting topic, so we welcome everybody. I guess good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today will be a full session from people around the world. We'll be joined today to lead the discussion by Anant Agarwal and Ryan Bertrand today. So let me first start off by introducing Anant. He is the CEO of EdX, an online learning destination founded by Harvard and MIT, and co-founded several companies, including Celera Corporation, which created the Tile multi-core processor, and Virtual Machine Works. There's a lot of accolades that Anant has. I'm going to go through a few. He was the 2016 recipient of the Harold W. McGraw Jr. Prize for Higher Education, which really recognized the great work that he did with advancing the MOOC movement. Additionally, he was a recipient of the Padma Shri Award, which is the fourth highest civilian award in the Republic of India. Scientific American selected his work on organic computing as one of 10 world-changing ideas, and he was named in Forbes' list of top 15 education innovators. So we're happy to have him here, so please join me today in welcoming Anant. Anant?
Hi, thank you very much, Jeff. I'm delighted to join you all and to talk about a disruption in corporate learning that is happening through technology.
All right, thank you. Now, well, we're happy you're here. We also have Ryan Bertrand joining us today. He is a vice president here at EdCast. EdCast is an AI-powered knowledge cloud for unified discovery, personalized learning, and sales enablement. Ryan is an experienced leader with a wealth of knowledge in the learning and human capital space. Ryan has spent his entire career in the learning industry, working with organizations such as IBM, Gartner Group, Skillsoft, Degreed, and now leads EdCast Enterprise Solutions Group. Please join me in welcoming Ryan. Ryan actually just messaged me. We're rebooting his system to make sure he can have better audio. So with that, we'll welcome Ryan when he's going to come in and speak a little further about the changes taking place with microlearning and MOOCs in corporate training. So without any further ado, please let me hand this over to Anant to get started. Thank you and welcome, Anant.
Thank you, Jeff. Let me dive right in. I am just trying to advance to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So every field around us is being disrupted, whether it's the hospitality industry by Airbnb, and the platforms are really changing the way we shop and dine and entertain and travel. The same thing is happening in education, and particularly for corporate learning. And I wanted to talk about that over the next 20 or so minutes. But before I begin, I'd love to have you think about the following question. I'd like you to think ahead to 2030. It's about 13 years from now, not very far ahead. I would like you to think about what fraction of today's jobs will be around in 13 years by 2030 because of technology and automation and robotics taking away jobs, moving jobs to new areas. What fraction of today's jobs will be around by 2030? I'll pause for a few seconds while you think about it. Well, surprisingly, the answer is 50%. Half of today's jobs will be gone by 2030 because of technology and automation. So what does this mean for all of us? What does this mean for corporations? This means that we have a planet-scale reskilling effort that we're looking at. 1 in 2 people are going to be out of a job. That will be in the need for reskilling or new skilling or upskilling, as you may want to call it. Entire industries have been changed around us. Uber has completely transformed the transportation industry, Netflix, how we entertain ourselves, Airbnb, how we travel. Every field known to mankind today has been transformed. The one field that really hasn't seen a whole lot of transformation remains as education. The reason that corporations are having a huge challenge with education and trying to innovate in education is that technology is moving too fast. Trying to create education that can satisfy the needs of fast-moving workplaces. Simply technology moving too fast makes it hard. It's too costly and very poor quality. Today's education is difficult. It doesn't scale very much. As you have international teams all over the world, how do you train a population of workers all over the world? And the other thing that's happening is too much turnover. A lot of corporations are saying that if I'm going to be losing people, why should I be investing in people? So you have a lot of challenges as you think about trying to figure out what to do. So what do you do? So if you're a corporation, what do you do to make these ills of education go away? And clearly, as a corporation, we have to think about upskilling and training in a huge way, as the whole world is changing before our eyes, where every one of two people need to be completely upskilled. Well, the good news is that the answer is right before our eyes. Here, let me ask you a second question. Within 10 years, as we think about what fraction of today's workforce will be millennials, now you'll be surprised to hear it's going to be 75%. 75% of today's workers will be millennials. And as you think about what you have to do to disrupt and reimagine corporate education, who better to ask than your customers? And your customers in this case are your employees, and your employees are millennials. And 75% of them are going to be millennials by the year 2025. Okay, so in 8 years, 75% will be millennials. And so let's look at what millennials want. So as we look to solve the education problem, the corporate training problem, what do millennials want? So let's look at these customers of ours for education and see what they're looking for. Well, as any parent that has a teenager knows, millennials like to be connected. They want learning to be social. They want learning to be peer recommended. Gone are the days when I was young, my father or mother would tell me, hey, Anant, go do this. And I would say, yes, sir, and I would go and do it. But we know that today's world is not like that. It is very difficult for a top-down model for education where if you're a corporate, coming in and telling your employees, hey, I need you to do this, that doesn't work quite well. Employees are looking for peer recommendations. So much like when I go to Airbnb to book an apartment in Paris, I look at the peer recommendations and peer feedback. Similarly, your employees are looking to their peers in terms of what to learn. They want the learning to be personalized. It needs to be fun, experiential, and self-directed. They want to learn at their own pace, and they want it to be fun. And gone are the days when you can show them videos or have them sit in a classroom learning. They want it to be flexible. They want to be able to learn anytime, anywhere. It needs to be mobile. They want to learn on the go. It needs to be on demand so that it can fit busy lifestyles. So gone are the days when we can expect our employees to sit in 1-hour lectures, being lectured at by somebody for an hour or 2 hours. They want to learn in bite-sized chunks, and it's sort of the YouTube culture. YouTube videos kind of control attention span of millennials. I know my teenage children have the attention spans of a fly. How do we teach in a way that, how do we educate in a way that can be done in bite-sized chunks with short videos as opposed to 1-hour lecture? It needs to fit into busy lifestyles. It needs to be on demand. And they want to learn when they want and where they want. If I'm taking the train or public transportation to work, I have 20 minutes. Hey, I want to learn a little module as I go. So the whole world has changed, and this is what our customers are telling us. This is what employees within corporations are telling us as more and more of them become millennial. The good news is we are already able to reach these people. edX is an online learning venture founded by Harvard and MIT. We partner with some of the top universities in the world, like MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Columbia, international universities like Delft and EPFL and the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore and others. And we offer their courses and certificates on our platform to learners all over the world. And already today, we have 12 million learners from every single country in the world. And they're already coming to edX, and these millennials are already learning on edX. The median age of the learner on edX today is 28. Learners from your companies are already coming to us in the thousands. Just as one example, we have more than 6,000 employees of Microsoft taking our courses, and that's a conservative number because we estimate that based on the emails they're coming from. A large number of employees are coming in not using their corporate emails, but personal other emails. And so the thousands of our employees are already coming to edX and Learn. We did a survey of our employees, of our learners rather, and what we found is that for career-oriented courses, 43% of our learners are telling us that they've already had a career advancement because of their edX certificate, whether it is a pay raise or a promotion or a new job. 43% are telling us they've had a career advancement. 47% of them are posting their credentials on LinkedIn from edX. And 45% of them are posting their edX certificates on their resume. And so your employees, millennials, are already coming to edX, already talking with their feet and taking these courses. So there is a solution before us that we can use to address the real learning challenge at corporates. Today, edX has grown to 12 million learners all over the world with more than 1,500 courses. We get content from our global partners. We have 130 global partners, as I said, including MIT, Harvard, many corporations like Microsoft and others. 42 million course enrollments with a 28 years being the median age of our learners. Our learners are already coming to us individually and learning on our platform. So in many ways, you can think of edX being an Uber for education, where our university and institutional partners create the content on our platform, and 12 million learners growing rapidly take that learning on the edX platform. We have content in a variety of areas. You won't believe what you can teach online today. Some of the most cutting-edge content that corporates might want. Online learning gives you that opportunity. We work with a number of corporations, including Shell and Boeing and Microsoft and Accenture and MasterCard, IBM and others, and work with them to identify what are the most important topics that are interesting to them. And based on their feedback, we work with our university and institutional partners to create the content. So based on that feedback, we have programs in topics like data science, machine learning. Leadership comes up as a universal topic demanded by virtually all corporations, particularly digital transformative leadership. Computer science and software is a perennial favorite. We are hearing more and more about the importance of writing and soft skills. So we have courses on that as well. Marketing, cybersecurity, big data, finance, the health sciences, business. These are all very important topics that corporates are looking to learn. And you just see some of our partners that are creating this content on edX listed here. So just as one example, we have and I'll talk about the credentials in a second. We have a MicroMasters program in supply chain management from MIT. We have a professional certificate program in data science from Microsoft. And so employees or individuals can enroll in large groups on edX and earn these valuable credentials completely online. The courses on edX, I should have pointed this out, are free. So you can come to edX and learn for free. We are about the only MOOC provider left today where our courses are completely free, where you can learn completely for free, and that's a real part of the MOOC movement. And in case you're wondering how we sustain ourselves, we are a nonprofit. We are the only nonprofit MOOC provider, but we sustain ourselves with a freemium model where you can learn for free. But if you want a certificate, you pay a small fee on the order of $100 or $200. So it's a very revolutionary model to education, and not unlike a lot of the platform technology that you see, like TripAdvisor and others, where you go in and you have a platform with a great free product where the organization makes its revenue through premium opportunities. That's who we are. edX has also made our platform available as open source to the world, and a lot of our partners are able to adopt our platform and use it for their own learning purposes. And we have a number of partners outside of the content producers on edX, and EdCast is one such partner, where a number of these partners have taken the edX platform and have launched their own solutions using the Open edX platform. So EdCast, for example, has launched an AI and knowledge-based platform to enable bite-sized content to be available to corporations. And what is amazing is that I had pointed out that there were 12 million learners learning on edX. What is amazing is that there are 800 other sites that use Open edX, and there's 12 million additional learners on those Open edX instances. So at this point, let me segue into what do I see learning looking like for corporates for the next century? How should learning evolve as we go on into the future? Well, as we talk about these ideas, let's go back and remember, keep in mind the millennial feature set, so to speak, the millennial forces that cause us to move in particular directions. Remember, they like mobile, they like on-demand, they like bite-sized, they like experiential. They really want credentials because they want to be upwardly mobile. They really, really care about these certificates. And remember, 47% of them are posting their edX certificates on LinkedIn. So here are some thoughts. One is we need radical new credentials, and MicroMasters and professional certificates are one example of these. So today, you have master's degrees. You can go and get a master's degree, or you may learn on whatever platform and may get nothing out of it in terms of a credential. But learners are looking for modular, meaningful credentials that require completely flexibly. And the MicroMasters is one such credential. A MicroMasters is about 25% of a master's degree. It can be done completely online by your employees. These are career-focused programs. Each MicroMasters is endorsed by a corporation. So for example, we have a MicroMasters in artificial intelligence from Columbia University on edX. That is endorsed by GE. We have a supply management MicroMasters endorsed by Walmart. We have a business analytics MicroMasters, and that is endorsed by Bloomberg. And these are flexible. You can learn anywhere and at any time, and affordable. As with the various programs on edX, you can learn for free, but if you want the MicroMasters credential, it will cost you on the order of $1,000. So this is just a radical, a disruptive new credential. It costs a few percent of a master's degree, and the other beauty of this is that it gives you a pathway to credit. So let's say, for example, if your employee eventually wants to go on for a master's degree, let's say they get a supply chain micromasters from MIT. If at some point they get admission into MIT, this will count towards credit, count towards 50% of the credit at a master's at MIT in supply chain. So each of the micromasters offers a pathway to credit at one of the edX partner universities. We've also launched even more modular, smaller professional certificate programs. These also vary in size and scope. These also are skills focused and offer a valuable professional certificate as the credential. We have a data science professional certificate program from Microsoft on edX. Very soon, we will be launching a professional certificate in soft skills. Soft skills are the new big thing for corporations, including teamwork and communications and critical thinking and so on. So these two new credentials that we launched on edX that your employees can earn for about $1,000 are very disruptive and offer a real flexible alternative to millennials to complete degree programs, which as a corporation, is a big opportunity cost for you. If your employee leaves to go get a master's degree, it's a real opportunity cost. And so here, they can do these things completely online and earn a credential. Here's just a quick quote from a Google engineer, Javier, who's taking the supply chain micromasters, and he talks about how what he's doing is effective in helping him every single day in his leadership role as a supply chain engineer at Google. We have, in our micromasters, we've already had 2 million enrollments. We have about 40 micromasters and about 20 professional certificate programs on edX today. Even more disruptive, we can also think about stacked degree programs. If you have an employee that gets a micromasters and they're thinking, hey, look, I like this enough, I want to go get a full degree. In many cases, they can apply to the university and parlay their credit into that university from the micromasters. Or we've launched a pilot program at Georgia Tech, which is a full online master's degree in data analytics for under $10,000. So think of this unbundling of the degree, so to speak. It's very radical. You can get a micromasters from Georgia Tech in data analytics for $1,500. Then, if you like it and you want to go for a full online master's degree, you apply to Georgia Tech. If you get admitted, you can get a full online master's degree for under $10,000. And so these kind of online programs are very millennial friendly, very flexible, and don't cost you the same as what you've been paying so far. And these are offered by some of the top universities in the world, like Georgia Tech and Harvard and MIT and others, so that there's a real valuable credential that backs these programs at a very low cost. So finally, what are we doing to support corporations? So edX, so we've created edX for Business. It is our offering. So if you Google edX for Business, it will take you to our business website and help you develop the workforce that you need. Your employees can get certificates on edX. We have also integrated into SAP's Success Factors. So those of you that use Success Factors, you're already integrated and can access our courses and so on very easily. We've done single sign-on. We do single sign-on through Success Factors, and we can also do single sign-on through your your own corporate systems. We provide data analytics back to the corporation in terms of how your employees are performing, so that you can figure out your own ROI. We can curate catalogs for you of learning. edX provides the learner support, and we make it easy for you to pay as well. We have multiple payment methods where you can pay as you go. We can also provide you with payment codes where your learners can pay. So this way, you are only paying for as much as you use, as opposed to many of the other subscription vendors where you pay a lot and you have no idea whether it's working or not. We give you the analytics, so you know whether it's working. You can pay as you go. And these credentials are very unique to edX, professional certificates and MicroMasters, and coming from top universities and corporations like Columbia and Berkeley, MIT and others, and corporate credentials like from Microsoft and others. So with that, edX is serving as a bridge between the university and the corporate world. Universities tend to focus on educating people at the age of 18 for 4 years. But as I said earlier, there's a huge demand for continuous education as we have to upskill an entire workforce. And edX is enabling universities and institutions to reach that workforce, enabling them to become continuous learners throughout their lives. And we're doing so through edX for Business and making it easy for you to sign up and do that with edX. We have a number of remarkable success stories. So for example, edX is now featured in IBM's Your Learning within IBM platform to 400,000 employees. The 400,000 employees within IBM will have access to these courses. And they're giving edX codes to their employees as a reward. Boeing, thousands of their employees are now using edX courses and getting reimbursed from Boeing. Many other corporations, Goldman Sachs, MetLife, as I said, Microsoft earlier, a number of corporations are having thousands to tens of thousands of their learners learning on edX, and they can learn for free. And if they want a certificate, they're being reimbursed by their employees. We've also launched many new programs that are in huge demand from corporations. So one of them that I'm particularly excited about is their MicroMasters from the Castrum Business School at BU in digital leadership. We also have a MicroMasters from BU in digital product management. So very cutting edge 21st century topics that millennials are really looking for. So with that, I'm going to pass it on back and to Jeff, and the conclusion that the future of education is continuous. It will be in demand, where you can learn on-demand topics continuously throughout your life.
Excellent, Anant. Thank you so much for all that information. I think that was great. There's been a lot of feedback coming in through the chat and QA sections. If you can, please make your questions available there in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll be queuing those up towards the end of today's webinar to make sure that we can get as many questions we can answered. If not, we will try to follow up after today's webinar. So with that, I am going to pass this over here to get Ryan on the call. 1 second, please. Okay. All right, Ryan, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear us, Jeff?
I hear you quite loud. Yeah, you sound loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, and then also Jeff can help you navigate the slides. So.
Okay, I will help navigate the slides.
If you can, please make.
Okay, Ryan, the ball is yours. Is there anything here that we can do to help? Is the sound coming through okay?
Hi, Jeff. For some reason, we've been having some technical difficulties. So what I think we'll do is I'm just going to dial into the phone. I've got my slides printed out, and I will ask for you, Jeff, to navigate my slides, if that's okay.
No problem. I'm here to help.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all attending. My name is Ryan Bertrand. I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Solutions here at EdCast. And if you could just go to the first slide there, Jeff, with EdCast AI-powered knowledge cloud. Basically, just to give you a context for who EdCast is, we're an AI-powered knowledge cloud. And basically, personalization enablement for all learning resources. So that's kind of a big mouthful, right? Yeah, I think a lot of Anant's presentation really resonated in terms of, how do people want to learn? What are the changing dynamics of the learning landscape? And, some of the things that Anant, kind of spoke to really, kind of gives us a context for the next slide. So Jeff, if you could go to the Netflix of learning slide. And really, one of the things that we've been using as a way to kind of, I guess, position ourselves in the minds of our prospects and customers is we really bill ourselves as the Netflix of learning. Now, why is that important? I think the best way to think about it is in context, right? It's been a huge 10 years from a technology standpoint. Many industries have been revolutionized, and I think as we're talking about kind of revolutionizing and transformative technologies over the last years, it would really be hard to have that conversation, without talking about things like iTunes and Spotify. 10 years ago, people were going to record stores and were fairly unhappy with that experience. You couldn't find the album you were looking for. And then what happened is that iTunes came in and completely changed the way music gets consumed. I think we could also look at things like, Netflix and Hulu and some of these other sites. When was the last time anybody's been in a Blockbuster video? The reality is, Netflix came in and provided a better way. And I think, even as we look at technologies like Bloomberg, and I think I try to use that as a historical perspective because, I think that's what EdCast is doing for all things learning. Now, when you look at all these technologies, I think it's helpful to look at what's kind of the one common theme of all these technologies. I think if you were to look at it, really the primary theme around it is all of those technologies looked at how does the consumer want to consume this thing, right? People that are looking at music want to sample music. They don't want to have to buy the album. They want to buy a song. They want to be able to share it with their friends. They want to be able to create playlists. They want it, on their devices and just-in-time, method. I think as we're looking at videos, give me recommendations. Personalize it to my personal taste so I don't have to go through thousands and thousands of videos. And I think that's what we're doing here at EdCast. We're looking at all things learning. We're using a powerful AI engine to personalize it, to create relevance. I think one of the big struggles with learning over the past 20 years has been typically L&D organizations are pushing learning to the employee or to the learner. And the reality is if the learner doesn't feel that's relevant to them, there's going to be a lack of adoption. And what we're trying to do is actually go out and with powerful AI and machine learning technology, create a profile around the learner, understanding what are the things they're interested in, what modalities do they like, what content sources they like. Sometimes it's going to be an article or a video or a full course. And so what we're trying to do is kind of take advantage of technology to do the very things that these other transformative technologies have done to really improve that learner experience, to really make it relevant to them and deliver exactly what they're looking for, when they need it, where they need it. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is just an example of some of the work we've been doing with Open edX as a background. We're working with hundreds of enterprise accounts, and dozens of them are Open edX customers and users. And so what we've been doing is working with edX and creating a ecosystem that allows for both micro and macro learning. As we look at macro learning, some of the things that Anant was speaking to is micro degrees or courses or boot camps or full-blown certifications in the subject area. But the reality of our learners, and especially millennials now, is they're learning anytime, all the time. There are people that just want to get an article. They just want to read a white paper. They just want to see a TED Talk. They're looking for just-in-time learning, just the right amount of learning at their point of need. And that's one of the ways in which we're working with organizations like SDG Academy, HP Life. We've been working in being able to really organize a very disparate ecosystem of things like LMSs, SharePoint sites, box sites, HRIS systems, and MOOCs and corporate universities. And what we're doing is we're actually creating one window of all things learning, so people can get to exactly what they need, how much they need, and where they need it. If you go to the next slide, we also work very closely with organizations like GE. And in GE's case, they've actually used us as their backbone for Brilliant U. And again, the idea being, GE, as you can imagine, has hundreds of different companies within their ecosystem, with thousands of SharePoint sites, hundreds of LMSs. And what they're able to do is a great analogy I've heard used is, when a learner is looking for a rare book, it's very frustrating and very inefficient to have them go to 100 different bookstores to find what they're looking for. And that's been the reality of corporate learning for many years. What we're trying to do is create that one centralized hub where people can discover from any variety of sources. They're able to launch, and also they're able to track. So what we're able to do is capture all of the things that are learning. One of the, for many of you, you may have heard of the 70-20-10 rule, but the bulk of all learning that's happening, especially in the enterprise now, is informal. So by providing one central hub where people can go to discover, launch, and track their training, not only are they getting credentials, and not only are they getting credit for the work that they're doing, but also it allows the organization, unlimited, granularity in terms of understanding what the skill sets of their user audience is. So why don't I dig a little bit deeper into that and, kind of share a little bit about how EdCast manages this octopus of learning infrastructure. So if Jeff, if you could go to the next slide. This is a pretty good capture of, really the EdCast universe. So as we're looking, we can see, there's always been this body of formal content, whether it be edX or Skillsoft or, corporate universities. That's certainly one primary hub of where people get a lot of their learning. In addition to that, a lot of enterprises are also partnering with premium content vendors, companies like Harvard Business Review or Skillsoft or Lynda. And again, up to this point, what most organizations have been doing is saying, we've got our corporate university, and then you have to go to a separate portal or learning infrastructure to take that premium content. The other piece is, and I think this has been really the catalyst around the 70-20-10 rule, is this whole idea of open content. 10 years ago, it's kind of hard to believe that we didn't have smartphones 10 years ago. Well, now with the advent of the smartphone, most people out in the learning ecosystem don't think to call learning and development when they're thinking about asking for training. They just Google it, or they just go to a TED Talk, or they just do a search on the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. So again, there's all this learning that's happening in these buckets that, in many cases, organizations and people don't, they can't track it and they don't have a sense for it. The other piece, which I think is incredibly powerful, is this whole idea of internal content. So, as we're looking at organizations, again, there's the learning infrastructure, but there are hundreds of SharePoint sites. There are Dropbox sites. There are HRIS systems. There's, just individual folders on Google Docs. And, one of the problems has been, again, how do we put whether it be internal content or external content, just from one source and make that federated search incredibly easy. Now, for us, one of the areas that we're really obsessing, and I think it's becoming a hugely growing trend, is the last piece in that that level of our graph here is this whole idea of tacit learning. So what I mean by tacit learning is every organization has got thousands of employees, and the reality is there's volumes and volumes of knowledge in each one of the heads of those employees. And one of the things I think organizations struggle with is how do we tap that? We've got all these subject matter experts that are walking the halls of our organization, but we really don't have a way of capturing that. And one of the things that EdCast has built into our platform is a live streaming or a content creation capability. So what we're able to do is tap those subject matter experts, have them create videos, have them create role plays, have them curate pathways, have them publish articles or point to smart bites or things that they've created. And now what we're able to do is actually tap into all of that resident expertise that sits within your organization. So again, what our platform is doing is laying a wrapper over all of these things with a highly user-centric GUI design that makes it easy, that makes it appealing, and also drives relevance. I think one of the other pieces that we speak to, and I talk to our AI, and I talk to the idea of it being like Netflix. When a user joins the EdCast platform, the first thing the platform will start doing is asking that person, what areas are you interested in? What are the things that are really driving you? What are your career aspirations? Also, it'll ask, where do you have expertise? And by creating a very robust profile of that user, what we're going to be able to do over time is custom roll every single day learning recommendations on the things that specifically resonate with that user. So beyond that, as we're looking at the slide, I think another really exciting place that we're focused on is one, how the technology, how the learning is delivered. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, EdCast was actually founded out of Stanford, and we were built with a mobile-first design. Being the idea of most users now, and especially millennials in the future, are incredibly used to working with smartphones, tablets, mobile apps. So what we did right out of the gate is created a learning infrastructure, creating a platform that maximizes all the great technology available in a mobile design. I think another piece is with our acquisition of Associative, is it's created a great way to layer in artificial intelligence to make that prediction, make that relevance much more meaningful to the user. One last piece I'll speak to this slide is another piece that I think Anant has spoken to is learners now also are very demanding. They want learning to be frictionless. So one of the things that we've done is in addition to creating an incredibly powerful interface and platform, is we're also delivering that functionality to where people work. So things like Salesforce. If you're a user of Salesforce, you can go into a Salesforce opportunity, and as you're looking at that opportunity, it will actually read what you're looking at and then give you a learning feed that will speak to, hey, do you want to take some additional learning on this subject that, if you're looking at maybe a pharmaceutical company, would you like to learn more about the pharmaceuticals industry? Would you like to learn more about this company? Or would you like to hear more about compliance regulations associated with the U.S. government as it relates to pharma? It'll even go beyond that and say, I noticed that while you're in Salesforce, you're in the discovery phase of your conversation. Would you like some questions and answers that might help you facilitate a discovery session with your client? So in addition to delivering that training where people are working, and we do integrate with things like Slack, like SAP Jam, Salesforce, and a variety of others, not only is it delivering learning where people work, but by using that powerful AI and machine learning, we're also contextualizing that learning so it's specifically relevant to that person's day. And what we're finding is not only is it driving adoption and relevance, but it's also driving productivity and efficiency because we're giving people exactly what they need, when they need, at the point of need. So next up, so that gives you just kind of a general background, and time permitting, certainly we're happy to show the interface. One of the things that I failed to mention in an earlier slide, and we'll be supplying this to everyone. Accenture and EdCast actually jointly published an article in TechCrunch talking about the need for a Netflix of learning. And Jeff, are you seeing me moving my screen now? Okay. Okay. So one of the things I was going to show you is again the user interface and how we can utilize EdCast to capture things like web-based resources and pull them right into the EdCast platform. But for now, why don't I go ahead, and I know we're starting to run a little bit short on time. I know we want to leave 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A. Jeff, if you go to the next slide. So, so if you go to the next slide, one of the other things I wanted to touch on is, again, I think EdCast and Open edX are seen as very forward-thinking, technology companies that are really trying to satisfy the needs of the future learner, the things that people have been craving for years, and the technology just hasn't been there to deliver it. So certainly we're forward-thinking and kind of considered a thought leader in this. And one of the things that we'll be doing in August is actually doing a Future of Learning Summit. It's going to be August 23rd and 24th. And I'd recommend, for those of you who are on the phone, take a look at our website, take a look at this link that's embedded here on the presentation. I think it's going to be a tremendous event for learning more about what's happening, what's the future of learning looking like. And we're going to have thought leaders like Josh Bersin, who's kind of a recognized pundit and futurist as it relates to learning. We're going to have Charles Jennings, who's really, kind of the guy who coined the idea of the 70-20-10 rule of learning. We'll have Carrie Williard, who's head of global learning for SuccessFactors. In addition to the chief learning officer over at Accenture, we're going to have literally, hundreds of people and peers. edX is a valued partner in this. They're going to have people attending as well. But I'd strongly urge all of you to take a look and recommend you come to the site, because it'll just be a great opportunity to network with your peers, but also really hear from some of the brightest thinkers in the space, where learning is going, how best to maximize the technology that exists out there today. And again, that event will be on August 23rd and 24th. And we're getting close to filled up, so if you can move quickly, if you're interested in going, we would love to see you there. And also, as it relates to this presentation, I know we went fairly quickly and we covered at a fairly high level. Certainly, edX and EdCast would be happy to have future conversations, demonstrations, show the technology for those of you who'd like to pursue this further. And with that, I'll send it back to you, Jeff, to maybe facilitate some Q&A.
Excellent, Ryan. Thank you so much for that. A lot of great information there, and a lot of good questions have come in so far. Anybody who has questions you'd like to address for Anant or for Ryan, please shoot them over. We have a lot to go through. So Anant, the first question is going to come over to you. The first question here, Anant, that I think that, I'm going to combine a few here so it makes a lot of sense, I think, for everybody. But the person, Lance, he kind of started this off, so bear with me as I read through this. Can a corporate L&D organization use the Open edX platform to produce its own material plus existing edX content to offer its program of study? Does edX exercise any quality control over that content by others, or to allow it or to remove it from the certificate programs?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. Great question. Open edX sites and Open edX installations are independent from edX. However, there are many companies like IBM, Microsoft, and others that have adopted the Open edX platform, and they expose that platform to their own internal employees, and at the same time, through the edX catalog API, they are able to list edX courses intermixed with their own courses on their Open edX site. When learners click on the edX courses on that site, they are led to edX, either through single sign-on or other approach to take the course on edX. When, to be clear though, the MicroMasters, there was another question there as well about the credentials and edX's uniqueness compared to other competitors. The credentials, MicroMasters, are unique to edX. edX offers MicroMasters and professional certificates, and the MicroMasters are the pathway to credit. Those are only on edX. You won't find MicroMasters internal to a corporation, created by the corporation, or on other competitor sites. Those are unique to edX. Also, edX, of course, exercises quality control on edX courses offered on edX. However, edX does not do quality control of courses or other content offered by people that adopt Open edX. I mean, Open edX is an open source platform, and we've truly given that away to the world as a free service. I hope that answers that question, Jeff.
Excellent. Yes, I think that does. And Lance, I'm sure you're happy with that response. Thank you, Anant. The next question here, I'm going to move over and back to Ryan. This one comes in from Sarah. Can EdCast's micro-learning smart bites be measured to see who is consuming it? And also, can you review who can create a smart bite on the system?
That's a great question. Thanks, Sarah. Yes. Well, I guess the answer is yes. So smart bites can be created. It's very flexible in that we can permission, when we configure the system, we can permission either to make smart bites available to everybody, or creation of smart bites available to everybody, or we can identify or create workflows where if you're out on the web, you see an article that looks interesting, you can quickly and easily, create a smart bite, assign it to channels, assign it to pathways. and again, pull that right into the system, for consumption. And that's very flexible in terms of we can either strongly permission it, or we can make it open so we can capture a lot of open resources that are out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Was there a second part to that question? I'm not sure if I caught the other part.
I think you touched upon it briefly, but the second part was who could create a smart byte in the system? Right.
So again, that's a permissionable thing. So everybody can create smart bytes. Like myself, as I'm reading things, I can go out and create a smart byte, add to it, comment on it, do things like that. But also we can permission it. So if people want a workflow that before it hits public viewing, it needs to be approved, we can certainly permission it. So we can restrict if that's necessary.
Okay, excellent. That does help. I'm sure that answers Sarah's question there. And Anant, I'm going to pass it back over to you for another question here. This one, you know what? I'm going to combine a few questions for this. So it was started by Pandora. Her question was, what are you seeing for the course completion rates or course progress compared to the industry for edX for businesses? And as a second follow-up question, what metrics are measured and reported on for businesses?
So in general, when learners are signing up for certificates, when they come in through corporates or otherwise, particularly in our MicroMasters and professional certificate programs, we are seeing extraordinarily high completion rates in the 60 to 80%. In other words, once people have signed up for the certificate and indicated a inclination to complete the program as a certificate signee, they are 60 to 80% likely to complete the program. There's also, a lot of value to these credentials. As I said, each of the programs are endorsed by a corporation. The learners are viewing these as valuable credentials and posting them on LinkedIn and so on. I think the most important signal of value is that if you earn a certificate in a MicroMasters on edX and you get admission into MIT or Columbia or Penn, the universities will honor those certificates and give you a pathway to credit at the university. And to me, that is the strongest indication of outcomes and quality, in that universities for the first time are enabling these certificates to be parlayed into credit for those learners that get admission into those universities. This is the first time this has happened, and it's a big change for the MOOC movement, where for the very first time, MOOC courses give you a pathway into credit, which is a very strong signal of their quality.
Wow, and that's the first I've heard of that. I think that's amazing that these courses can now be used as prerequisites or credits towards other degree programs. I think that's fantastic answer for that. And as a follow-up to that, while I have you here, along those lines, you're seeing how it's changing how MOOCs are being represented for the academic space with the credentials that are offered through an edX course. Can you speak to how businesses and organizations you've worked with have treated those internally? Do they have either requirements or recommendations made for employees to go out and take courses and then make sure they get that certification of completion and it's used in performance? Or are there other ways that credential is being used for other organizations working with edX?
Sure. So we have many examples of corporations, whether it's MetLife or GE or IBM or Boeing and others. They're all using these courses internally in a variety of ways. The simplest one is they curate the courses, and if the employees take the courses and complete a certificate, they are offering to pay for the certificate. Second, in many companies, the business leader is either requiring or strongly encouraging the team members to complete certain courses. So for example, and in some cases, a Boeing, for example, or Microsoft, they have needed these courses, and they've actually funded edX to work with their university partners to create the courses according to their general specifications. So we've done some of that as well for the corporations, and these are very much required of the employees that the corporate wants to, would like to have take these courses. So it really spans the gamut.
Great, Anant. Thank you for that. Thank you. I think that's very interesting. And Ryan, we have a question here. I know we're getting close to the time here, but let's try to get this one in for you, Ryan. This is a question about what types of learning content can be delivered to Slack or Salesforce via EdCast. Is it personalized material for the user? And can you speak to how that happens? What drives EdCast to bring this material into those applications?
Okay, so no, great question. So really a wide variety of different content can be imported into these other technologies. Really, almost anything that can associate with a URL can be seen. So we can be presenting videos, we can be presenting articles, internal documents like presentations or maybe demos that demos have been captured on video on a SharePoint site. So all anything that's existing in the EdCast platform can be delivered to these other technologies. And the other really exciting piece about our AI is, again, this whole idea of contextualized learning. So wherever somebody's working in these technologies, the system is actually monitoring and has a good sense for your profile, what you're looking at, and will then be making recommendations. So I'll give you an example. As I am out looking at an article on TechCrunch, if I hit the EdCast widget, at any given time, real time, what it's doing is it's constantly rolling content recommendations. It will recommend, if I'm looking at an article about Amazon, it will say, hey, here are 5 other articles about Amazon that have recently come out. Would you like to read those? Would you like to create a smart bite around those? And really, we can facilitate pretty much any modality, whether it be video, textual, PowerPoint, any of those types of learning, or courses for that matter. Another piece I wanted to speak to, and it dovetailed into a bit of a nonce piece, around analytics. So yeah, certainly it's important to be able to capture data around completion, utilization, and we're also facilitating that as well within our platform. Is really any learning that's happening could be marked as complete. So you're able to capture, certainly you want to know if somebody's completed a course, but if somebody's over the course of a year read 300 articles about artificial intelligence, it's good to really be able to capture that. That normally wouldn't be captured in a college transcript, but that person really has resident expertise, and we can mine that data to not only create a transcript around all of the things that person's learning about, but also we can mine it to say, if we're looking for subject matter expertise, we can pull from that data and it'll give recommendations to who has that subject matter expertise, which we may tap for projects or for providing subject matter expertise in the future.
By the way, I do want to point out, I did neglect to answer earlier, what is the analytics and data that we provide? So on the edX platform, we have the big data of learning. We capture every single mouse click, every single action by the users. We know how much time they're spending on videos. We know what videos they watched before getting a problem right. We know it all. And so the data that we give back to corporations as part of our data package when they partner with us to have their learners take our courses is beyond the pass-fail. We do a pull and provide more detailed information of, did the pass, what are the grades and so on and so forth as well.
Great. Thank you for following up with that, Anant. And Ryan, thank you for your answer as well. We are coming up to the top of the hour. I think this has been an excellent webinar, very informative with information about how microlearning and MOOCs are changing the landscape for corporate learning. So I thank everybody in attendance. Again, this webinar has been recorded and will be sent out by the end of the week, so you have access to that. I apologize to all the people who have sent in questions that we didn't get to. I did my best to combine as many questions as I could into themes that were able to be addressed by Anant and Ryan here. I think they did a great job doing so. Other questions we'll review offline and reach back out to you at a later date. So with that, that brings us right to the top of the hour. Once again, let's thank Anant and Ryan here today for being with us to share this great information, and I thank all of you for participating. So again, thank you for being here. We have a contact information on the screen for more information, and with that, I'll bring today's webinar to a close. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It was a